Behind the glowing neon lights of the Las Vegas Strip, a darker truth is unfolding. Casinos like Caesars Entertainment are still building massive new day clubs, but inside their walls, workers are quietly being pushed out, entire shifts eliminated, and rumors of mass layoffs spread through the city like wildfire. At the same time, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has delayed key reports on consumer spending, hiding the numbers that reveal how badly ordinary Americans are struggling. If the news were good, it would be out already. Instead, silence. Across the country, families search Google for answers, typing in the desperate words, "Help paying my mortgage." In Nevada, foreclosure notices are climbing again, echoing the nightmare of 2008. Taxi drivers admit they now earn half as much as they did just a year ago, while telling stories of casinos that cut 250 employees in a single day. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's happening right now, and the corporations running Vegas don't want you to see it. Experts warn there's a 97% chance of recession, but Wall Street keeps celebrating as if the party will never end. The truth is, if you want to see what America's hidden recession really looks like, you only have to look here at a city that thrives on illusion but can no longer hide the cracks. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on the recession no one admits, because Las Vegas just proved it. The first clue that something is deeply wrong doesn't come from a casino floor. It comes from Washington, D.C. The Bureau of Labor Statistics. BLS was supposed to release its latest data on consumer expenditures, the single most important measure of how much Americans are spending on daily essentials. But instead of transparency, the agency quietly delayed the report. No explanation, no reason, just silence. For investigators, the absence of data speaks louder than the data itself. If the numbers were positive, if inflation was truly cooling, if families were spending with confidence, the government would be parading those figures across every headline. But when the release is postponed, you know the truth is grim. Insiders whisper that revisions are piling up, that the raw numbers show households falling further behind on groceries, utilities, and housing. In short, the cost of living is crushing families, and officials don't want it hitting the markets just yet. On the ground, the story checks out. Las Vegas taxi drivers confess that their income is now half of what it was a year ago. One driver described how a strip casino cut 250 workers in a single day. No severance, no safety net. These are not isolated cases. They are symptoms of an economy bleeding quietly, while the headlines pretend nothing is wrong. Meanwhile, ordinary Americans are leaving a digital paper trail of their desperation. On Google Trends, the phrase, "help paying my mortgage," has exploded nationwide, with hotspots in Nevada, Florida, and Ohio. Behind every search is a family staring down overdue bills, a homeowner calculating how many paychecks remain before foreclosure. The search data is public, undeniable, and damning. It tells the story that delayed government reports refuse to admit. And here's why the delay matters so much. Financial markets run on confidence. A bad report from the BLS can send the stock market tumbling, wiping billions from portfolios overnight. The people who lose the most are not working-class Americans. They're the billionaires who fund both political parties and demand stability at any cost. By holding back bad news, the system buys them time. The Federal Reserve keeps cutting interest rates, claiming relief is on the way, while families at kitchen tables see no relief at all. Economists outside the political machine are sounding the alarm. Some say there's a 97% chance of recession. Others, like Mark Zandi of Moody's Analytics, point to a 48% likelihood of a severe downturn based on collapsing building permits and rising delinquencies. The numbers are there, just not in the official press releases. For investigators, this is the smoking gun. When data is hidden, it's never hidden for good reasons. And when a city like Las Vegas, built on endless consumer spending, starts showing cracks at the same time the government goes quiet, the conclusion becomes unavoidable. The economy is already breaking, and the silence from Washington is proof they know it. If the delayed reports from Washington, D.C. are the first red flag, then Caesars Entertainment is the second. On the surface, Caesars still sells the dream glowing billboards, world-famous shows, and new day club expansions promising endless luxury. But behind the facade, the numbers tell a very different story. Just weeks ago, Caesars was kicked out of the S&P 500, a brutal downgrade that stripped the company of its place among America's most valuable firms. For a corporation once seen as the crown jewel of the strip, that fall is staggering. Investigators digging into the company's operations discovered the truth: Caesars has been disguising decline as efficiency. One of the clearest cases is at the once celebrated Bacchanal buffet inside Caesar's Palace. This buffet was legendary, charging nearly $100 per person at its peak. But behind the scenes, management began eliminating key staff. The bussers, the workers responsible for clearing tables and keeping the dining hall flowing, were quietly cut. Their duties were dumped onto aging servers in their 50s and 60s, forcing them to juggle impossible workloads. The official line was streamlining operations. The reality was an open secret: older workers were being pushed to the brink, effectively forced out, without ever being formally fired. This wasn't an isolated case. According to insiders, Caesars has been systematically trimming staff across multiple venues. A taxi driver revealed to our team that one casino, believed to be part of the Caesars portfolio, laid off 250 employees in a single day. No advance notice, no safety net, just a sudden purge. To the public, these cuts are invisible. The neon keeps flashing, the music keeps playing. But to the people who live here, the hollowing out of the workforce is impossible to ignore. At the same time, Caesars continues pouring money into construction. Walk the Caesars Palace property today, and you'll see cranes swinging, concrete pouring, and a brand new day club taking shape. The contradiction is almost insulting: building billion-dollar attractions while slashing the very workers who made the company thrive. For investigators, it reveals the company's survival strategy: mass decline with spectacle. The financials confirm the danger. Stock charts show Caesars sliding steadily downward, even as competitors like MGM Resorts and Wynn Resorts manage to hold steady. Analysts point out that Caesars was already over-leveraged, carrying massive debt loads from previous expansions. Being expelled from the S&P 500 wasn't just symbolic, it was a flashing red siren that the company's foundation is rotting. And then there are the perks. In recent months, Caesars announced special deals for locals: 25% off food and beverage and free parking. But longtime Nevadans know free parking was always available for residents. Packaging it as a promotion reeks of desperation. As one local put it, "They're not rewarding us, they're begging us to come back." When investigators connect the dots, a chilling pattern emerges. Behind the shimmering fountains and LED billboards, Caesars is quietly cutting costs, quietly shedding staff, and quietly losing investor confidence. Each discount and each layoff is another admission that the company can't sustain itself on tourist dollars alone. Instead, it leans harder on the few wealthy high rollers, hoping their spending can plug the gaps. But this strategy is dangerous. It ties the survival of an empire to the whims of a tiny elite, leaving the entire workforce exposed. For Las Vegas, Caesars is more than just a company, it's a bellwether. If Caesars, the very symbol of the Strip, is in freefall, then the rest of the city is not far behind. The illusion of prosperity may still shine on the billboards, but for workers, investors, and locals, the collapse is already here. And when a giant like Caesars trembles, the whole of Las Vegas feels the quake. If the casino floors reveal one side of America's hidden collapse, the housing market exposes the other. For years, Americans were told that once the Federal Reserve cut interest rates, relief would finally reach the housing sector. But investigators looking deeper discovered the truth. Mortgage rates are not falling. They are chained to the 10-year Treasury yields, and those yields are climbing higher every month. The result: families across Nevada, California, and Florida are still locked out of affordable housing, even as the headlines promise relief. In Las Vegas, the damage is already visible. Foreclosure notices are once again appearing on doors, eerily reminiscent of the 2008 housing crash. Families who bought during the pandemic boom, often at inflated prices, now find themselves underwater. Their home values have stagnated or dropped, while their monthly payments remain impossibly high. Realtors admit privately that houses are sitting on the market for months, not because people don't want to move, but because no buyer can afford the new loans. Homeowners who locked in 3% mortgages during the low-rate years refuse to sell. Why would they? Trading their property means accepting a 7% mortgage or higher, effectively doubling monthly payments. This has frozen the market into a dangerous stalemate. Homeowners won't sell, buyers can't afford, and transactions dry up. Every day, this logjam continues. The housing sector bleeds revenue and confidence. At the national level, the numbers look absurd. There are said to be 15 million vacant homes across the United States. On paper, that should mean an abundance of supply. But investigators found that many of these homes are tied up in Airbnb investments, hoarded by hedge funds, or left empty as speculative assets. They're not available for working families, they're locked away as financial instruments. The reality on the ground: demand is crushing. Supply is inaccessible, and the middle class is being squeezed out. The desperation is now measurable online. Google Trends shows a surge in searches for help paying my mortgage. It's not a small spike, it's nationwide. In Nevada, Ohio, and Florida, the phrase has skyrocketed, with thousands of households looking for last-minute lifelines. Behind every search is a story: a family juggling credit cards, a worker behind on bills, a parent calculating how many months until foreclosure. These digital cries for help are raw evidence of a crisis that the official reports delay or disguise. And when foreclosures hit, the ripple effect spreads fast. Contractors lose work, furniture, stores go empty, and moving companies sit idle. Local governments see tax revenue collapse. Small businesses that depended on steady home sales, from landscapers to repair crews, suffer blow after blow. In cities like Las Vegas, which grew fat on endless development, the sudden freeze is devastating. Empty subdivisions, half-finished projects, and silent cul-de-sacs are becoming the new reality. For many, the cruelty lies in the broken promise of the American dream. Home ownership was once the symbol of stability, the pathway to wealth. Now it's a trap. Families who work tirelessly to buy are suffocating under impossible payments. Renters, meanwhile, are locked out, completely watching prices climb with no chance to save. Younger generations despair, older homeowners cling to what they have, and the dream itself is evaporating before everyone's eyes. In Nevada, the warning signs are loudest. Casino workers who once believed their steady jobs would secure them homes now find themselves facing eviction notices. Suburban streets just a few miles off the Strip show for sale and foreclosure signs, multiplying week by week. Tourists don't see it, but locals do. And what they see looks less like recovery and more like the beginning of another collapse. This is why economists like Mark Zandi of Moody's Analytics warn of a nearly 50% chance of a severe recession. It's not theory, it's in the data. Permits are drying up, mortgages are strangling families, foreclosures are accelerating. The logjam isn't temporary, it's systemic. And once again, just like in 2008, Las Vegas is the canary in the coal mine. The illusion of prosperity cannot mask the reality: America's housing market has become a fault line, and the cracks are already spreading. While ordinary Americans struggle with mortgages, foreclosures, and credit card bills, the financial system continues to reward only the top. Investigators following the money found that the entire U.S. stock market is now dangerously concentrated in just 7 companies, the so-called Magnificent Seven: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Alphabet, and Nvidia. These 7 giants carry the weight of the market on their shoulders. When they rise, Wall Street celebrates. When they stumble, the whole economy trembles. Earlier this year, the fragility was exposed. A Chinese company, DeepSeek, announced a cheaper, more efficient AI system, sending shockwaves through the tech world. Almost overnight, Nvidia's stock dropped, dragging down indexes that had been inflated on AI hype. For investigators, the message was clear: America's financial future is tied to a handful of firms, and any disruption from China, Europe, or even regulatory changes could send shockwaves across the system. Meanwhile, the reality for working Americans is far bleaker. Credit card debt has reached an all-time high, surpassing $1 trillion. For the first time in decades, delinquencies are rising across every demographic: young adults, families, even retirees. And the next wave is about to hit harder: the buy now, pay later bubble. For years, these installment payments weren't reported to credit agencies, meaning consumers could miss payments without their FICO scores taking a hit. That grace period is ending. Soon, millions will see their credit scores collapse as late payments are finally recorded. Even if they pay back later, the damage will linger for years. This system doesn't reward responsibility, it punishes it. Locals in Las Vegas tell stories of paying off car loans or credit cards only to watch their credit score drop by 50 to 100 points because they no longer had active debt. Imagine working for years to clear what you owe only to be penalized for not owing anymore. For investigators, it's further proof that the credit system is designed not to free Americans from debt, but to keep them chained to it indefinitely. At the top, of course, the billionaires play a different game. When the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates, markets pump higher. Investors and hedge funds reap billions. But for families waiting for mortgage relief, nothing changes. Why? Because their mortgages are tied not to Fed policy, but to 10-year bond yields, which continue to rise. The rate cuts make headlines, but the reality is that households see no benefit. The relief is manufactured for Wall Street, not for Main Street. Adding to the instability is the mountain of U.S. government debt, over $36 trillion, and climbing, financed by issuing more bonds. To attract investors, the government offers higher yields, which ripple into the broader economy, keeping borrowing costs high for families and businesses alike. It's a vicious cycle. More debt means higher yields. Higher yields mean more expensive loans, and more expensive loans mean more families suffocating under payments. And while the rich feast on gains, ordinary Americans tighten belts. Retail sales are flat. Consumer confidence is slipping. In places like Nevada Casino, workers describe juggling 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. The culinary union, once a guarantee of stable middle-class life, is no longer enough to shield families from rising costs and suffocating debt. All of this creates a stark divide. On one side, the Magnificent Seven and the billionaires tied to them pumping markets higher and collecting record profits. On the other, millions of Americans watching their credit scores sink, their bills rise, and their dreams evaporate. In Las Vegas, that divide is visible every night: high rollers dropping thousands at the tables, while workers in the shadows wonder how they'll pay this month's rent. For investigators, the conclusion is clear. This is no longer a broad-based economy. It's a rigged game. The wealth of a nation hangs on 7 corporations and a handful of billionaires, while the majority carry crushing debt. And if those 7 stumble, the whole illusion unravels. If the recession is invisible on Wall Street charts, it is screaming on the streets of Las Vegas. This city has always been a master of illusion, but the mask is slipping. Investigators found that Caesars Entertainment, once the undisputed giant of the Strip, is no longer projecting confidence, it is broadcasting desperation. Consider the so-called perks. Caesars recently announced 25% discounts on food and beverage and even touted free parking for locals. But residents know parking has always been free for Nevadans. Packaging it as a special deal is more than tone deaf. It's a confession that the company is scrambling to fill empty rooms in restaurants. For longtime observers, these discounts aren't generosity, they're warning signs. Meanwhile, the workforce is being hollowed out. Members of the culinary union describe being forced to handle double or triple workloads cleaning tables, while serving drinks, running entire sections of restaurants alone. Others whisper about managers hinting at a future where robots will replace them entirely. Automated bartenders, AI concierges, machines delivering drinks on the casino floor. For a city built on service, that's an existential threat. The desperation doesn't stop at Caesars. Across the Strip, insiders point to the same quiet belt-tightening. Entire wings of hotels sit dark during midweek. Convention halls, once packed with business travelers, now book smaller, cheaper events. Visitor numbers remain far below their pre-pandemic highs, and occupancy rates tell a sobering story. The tourists who once filled the city are vanishing, while casinos cling harder to a shrinking class of high rollers. This strategy of catering exclusively to the wealthy creates a fragile ecosystem. As long as billionaires and international elites keep arriving, the illusion holds. But if global markets stumble, or if those elites decide to spend elsewhere, the house of cards collapses. For investigators, it's not a matter of if, but when. The contrast is striking. Companies like MGM Resorts and Wynn still posture as strong, keeping prices high, projecting luxury. Caesars, by comparison, looks cornered. Its stock chart shows steady decline, its debt load grows heavier, and its reputation among workers is collapsing. To locals, it's clear Caesars is the weak link, and if it falls, the ripple could shake the entire strip. Even more troubling is the psychological shift among the city's residents. A casino job once meant stability enough to buy a home, raise a family, and retire with dignity. Now workers face foreclosure notices, shrinking hours, and corporate leaders who see them as expendable. The dream of stability has been replaced with fear of replacement by layoffs, by machines, by a system that no longer values loyalty. Investigators connecting these dots see a chilling picture. A city built on nonstop spending now relies on coupons to survive. A workforce once proud and secure is now overworked and under threat. A company that once symbolized Vegas luxury is now repackaging free parking as a perk. These aren't the moves of a thriving empire, they're the desperate gestures of a crumbling one. And this matters far beyond Nevada. Las Vegas has always been a mirror of America's economy. When Vegas thrives, it means Americans have disposable income. When Vegas bleeds, it means the middle class is in retreat. Right now, Vegas is bleeding jobs, vanishing locals, suffocating discounts, multiplying. Behind the neon, the city is quietly admitting the truth: the recession no one wants to acknowledge has already begun. For the rest of America, that's the real warning. If even Las Vegas, the city built to project endless wealth, can no longer hide its desperation, then the cracks are far deeper than anyone dares to admit. The illusion is fading, and what's left is the truth. Vegas just proved it. So where does all of this leave us? It leaves us with an American economy that looks stable only on the surface. Behind the stock market charts and the polished press releases, the reality is undeniable. Families can't pay their mortgages, workers are being cut, and Vegas casinos are quietly admitting weakness. The Bureau of Labor Statistics delays the very numbers that would confirm the pain, while billionaires celebrate as the Magnificent Seven push Wall Street to new highs. But here in Las Vegas, the cracks are wide open. Caesars Entertainment forced out of the S&P 500, slashing staff, while pretending discounts are perks. Foreclosures climbing in Nevada, echoing the ghost of 2008. Credit card delinquencies breaking records, and a buy now, pay later bomb about to sink millions of FICO scores. These aren't theories. They're facts on the ground, and they all point to the same conclusion: the recession is here, even if no one in power will admit it. Las Vegas has always been a city of illusion, but even illusions collapse. When the neon lights shine on empty tables, when billion-dollar clubs rise while workers are laid off, when locals see more foreclosure signs than job offers, the truth can't be hidden anymore. The recession no one admits has found its proof, and it's glowing in neon across the desert. The question isn't if America is heading into recession. The question is how long the illusion can hold before the rest of the country feels what Las Vegas already knows. Because once Vegas breaks, the whole nation will see the truth.